So when we talk about great Jewish leaders, like what's the first name that pops into your head? Moses. Anyone say anything else? No one just say Herzl? Abraham? Okay, Moses, Abraham. Who else?
David.
King David, okay. King David.
And King Solomon also.
King Solomon. A lot of great leaders that we have in Jewish history. But I think everyone would agree that probably the most important, the paramount Jewish leader is going to be Moses. Correct?
Yes.
Now I want to analyze a little bit about what the Torah tells us about Moses and what were his special qualities that made him this great, transcendent, and almost immortal leader that we look back today, 3,300 years later, and he's the guy that a bunch of young Jews today decide is a great Jewish leader. What was so special about Moses, or Moshe, that made us all here agree that he's the paramount Jewish leader? So the Torah actually, interestingly, gives a eulogy of Moses. We have the Torah itself declares some sentences about who Moses was and how special he was, and it gives us a list of his accomplishments. Now, what would you imagine if you were writing like the tombstone, the epithet of Moses? What would you put in it? How would you consolidate his accomplishments to a few lines? What would you say about him? Moses gave us the Ten Commandments. Well, not really. It's
the man that led the people out of slavery into freedom and carried them all the way to the promised land.
Okay, so we're talking about he's the great leader. He took us out of Egypt. He was the one who spearheaded the 10 plagues.
What?
He was the one who split the sea for us. He was the one who gave us the Torah.
Yep.
And indeed, it mentions something like that. So let me read it. This is the last 3 verses in the Torah. If you go all the way to the end of the Torah, last book is Deuteronomy Dvarim, and the last parsha is Vezot HaBracha, and the very last 3 verses read as follows. I'll read it in English.
Okay.
Never again has arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses, who Hashem had known face to face, as evidenced by all the signs and wonders that Hashem sent him to perform in the land of Egypt, against Pharaoh and all his servants and all his land, and by all the strong hand and awesome power that Moses performed before the eyes of Israel. This is, the last word in the Torah is Yisrael, Israel, le'enei kol Yisrael, to the eyes and the eyes of all of Israel. Moses performed fantastic things in front of everyone. What is this thing that Moses performed to the eyes of all of Israel in front of everyone? So Rashi says, before the eyes of Israel, that Moses, when he came down from the heavens, he broke the tablets. Ushavar et haluchot. He took the luchot, the stone tablets, and he broke them. As the verse says, and I broke them before their eyes. Right? Vashabrem le'enehem. Right? So when it says le'enei kol Yisrael, in front of the eyes of all of Israel, that Moshe did something in front of the eyes of everyone. What's that Moshe did in front of the eyes of everyone? He broke the tablets in front of the eyes of all of Israel. And the Almighty agreed to his decision, as it said, that you broke. Ashrecha yasher kochacha sheshibarta. Thank you for breaking them.
Wow.
If we were to make a top 10 list of Moshe's greatest accomplishments, forget about that. If we made a top 100 list of Moshe's greatest accomplishments, would any one of our lists include breaking the tablets?
Probably not.
This is Moses. Is the last thing we're going to tell you in the Torah. The last, most important thing that you need to know about Moses, his greatest accomplishment, the peak of his leadership, the peak of his life, the greatest, crowning achievement of Moses' life, he broke the tablets. Why, pray tell, would the Torah tell us that this is the highlight, this is the peak, this is apex of Moshe's leadership? I would say he gave us the Torah, he split the sea, he said that all the firstborn are going to die. He went up to the mountain, he survived for 4 days without eating and drinking, he talked to God face to face. Well, that does mention, why is breaking the tablets so central, so pivotal, so crucial to Moshe's life and to Moshe's legacy, that this is the thing that we say he did in front of the eyes of all of Israel? What could the Torah possibly be teaching us, informing us by highlighting this aspect of it? And you know what? Let me say a question. We know Moses comes down from the heaven. He sees the people engaging in the golden calf.
Blasphemy.
He says, what's going on here? He takes the stone tablets, smashes the tablets. He takes the golden calf. He grinds it up. He puts it in the water. He makes everyone drink from the water. 3,000 people die. God says, I want to destroy the Jewish people. Moses says, no. Moses prays for the people. Finally, God agrees to spare the people. What's the big deal that he broke the tablets? What's the big deal? Why is this so central? So I want to just hold off on the question. Anyone has any ideas you want to share?
Were the tablets written with God's finger, right? So that was a big deal.
True. So, so what? But he broke them. He didn't write them. He broke them.
But it was something that was made by God himself.
And Moshe broke them.
And he broke
That seemed like it'd be a bad thing, no? Imagine if God gives you a tablet. Even this kind of tablet, right?
Here, let me
You
break
know?
it.
And you take it and you smash it. Whoa, Moshe's got an anger problem, right? He's breaking Apple Care. He's breaking stuff. Like, what's? First of all, why did he even do it? What's the whole idea? Why did he even do it? But why is this the peak of Moshe's life?
People weren't worthy of the tablets, right?
Okay, people were worthy of the tablets, but why is that so central to Moshe's persona?
He did something that could be considered so horrible, but he knew it was the right thing to do.
Okay, maybe. I like where you're heading there.
Who said it's the people with life? What people?
They want to know what Josh asked.
Oh, Josh, say, speak louder.
I said he did something that would seem unpopular, but he knew it was the right thing to do. That was what had to be done, even though it was viewed as
Maybe
a-
great leaders do things that are not popular, but that are correct. I like where you're going.
He didn't have.
תגיד את זה בעברית.
הוא לא היה מוכן להתפשר. Compromise.
He wasn't going to compromise.
He wouldn't compromise on the people following a strict protocol, and once he saw that they're deviating, he was willing to sacrifice everything. I mean, it was as much of the people's legacy than it was his own legacy. He went up to the mountain and got it, and he brought those tablets, and the fact that he was willing to break it was basically throwing away all of his accomplishments.
I like
in
where you're
order
going
to
there.
get the people to do it.
We're getting there. Moses was able to repudiate and reject what would have been to reject something that would have been an eternal legacy for Moshe. Remember the first
Like
tablet,
the Iranian deal, for instance.
Yeah, good example.
like
It'd be like Obama playing Obamacare.
exactly. It'd be like Obamacare.
You know what? That's an
Nelson does know
It's a great Madashva comparison that one leader was willing to throw away everything in order to
Save
not
the
to
people.
compromise and make a point, and the other one would go and make any compromise just to save the deal, to say, hey, I got something.
It'd be like the Ayatollah
Well,
throwing
okay,
the deal.
okay. Let's not bring it into politics. Okay, that's the last thing we find out in the Torah, and the last thing we find about Moses. Who here knows what's the very first thing we find out about Moses? The first episode, the first story
Using the
of
basket
Moses.
in the river.
No, that's Moses the baby. Moses the adult. First episode.
Oh, when he
So I'll
kills
read it to you.
When he kills the taskmaster, or no?
Exactly. I'll give you a quote. This is from Exodus chapter 2, verse 11. And it happened in those days that Moses grew up and went out to his brethren and saw their suffering, and he saw an Egyptian hitting a Hebrew, one of his brothers. And if you read this verse critically, you'll notice that there are some words that are repeated.
Brethren.
Number one is brethren, and number two is the word saw. He saw. Right? He went out, he saw the suffering of his brethren, and he saw an Egyptian man hitting a Hebrew of his brethren. And the Midrash asked the question, why are we saying the word twice? What did he see? What did he see? He saw and he saw. He saw multiple things. So the Midrash says as follows. Quote, question. What is it meant by the words, and Moshe saw? What did he see? So it gives us two answers. He saw their suffering, and he started crying. Moshe goes out. Moshe is the prince of Egypt, and he sees his brothers, and they're suffering. They're having to schlep stones, and they're being whipped. And he starts crying, and he says, woe unto me, if only I could die for you. And what did he do? he used his shoulders to burden and help each person carry their brick. That's the first thing that he saw. He saw their suffering. Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Yossi from the Galilee, said as follows. What did he see? Listen to this, guys. This is what Moshe saw. He saw a large load on a light person and a light load on a large person. He saw that one guy was schlepping. He was a really small, little, frail individual, and he's schlepping something very big. And then he saw someone really big schlepping, schlepping, carrying something really light. Unosel, sochev, exactly. He saw a load intended for a man on a woman. He saw a woman carrying a load that a man's supposed to carry, and a load intended for a woman on a man. A load intended for an elderly person on a young person, and a load intended for a young person on an elderly person. That's what he saw. He saw everything was suboptimal. It wasn't optimized. A young person was doing what an old person should do. An old person was doing what a young person should do. A man was doing a woman was doing what a man's supposed to do. A big person was doing what a little person should do, and a little person was doing what a big person should have done. And what did he say? Moses abandoned his stature. Moses could have said, I'm a prince. I'm not dealing with these slaves. He abandoned his stature and went to alleviate their suffering under the guise of assisting Pharaoh. And he told Pharaoh, let's optimize it. And and his intention was to alleviate their suffering. But he told Pharaoh as if he's going to help Pharaoh. Well, it's more cost effective, it's more productivity to do it like that. Okay, here's the killer line. The Almighty said, you, Moses, you set aside your dealings and went to witness the plight of Israel. You abandoned the aristocracy and you went to deal with the simple people. God, I'm going to abandon all the lofty matters and I'm going to talk to you. Thus, this episode, the very first episode that we're told about Moses, it tells us why was Moses chosen to be the great leader? What characteristic did Moses have that made him capable and worthy of being the leader that we all say today is the greatest Jewish leader of all time? And it gives us two reasons. We'll get to that. That's the culmination of both of them. The first is that Moses saw people suffering and he went to carry along with them. Now imagine you saw 600,000 slaves carrying bricks. Can you imagine? You see a sea of slaves. Everyone's carrying bricks. What do? You go and help someone, right? And you go help another person. And you go help a third person. Are you really helping?
No, not really.
What are you accomplishing? There's 600,000 people. You helping, 1, 2, 5, 10 people. You're not making a dent. What's Moses doing? You're wasting your time. What does it mean that the Midrash tells us that he went to help people? What does it mean he went to help people?
It's the symbolism of it.
Okay. Indeed, so you're right. Moshe could not help people. But Moshe demonstrated a character trait that says, I want to suffer if you're suffering. I identify with you. I don't want to be the only one not suffering if everyone else is suffering. Of course, Moses knew that carrying 1 or 2 bricks or 10 bricks or 100 bricks is not going to do anything. But I want to suffer if you're suffering. I want to identify with you. Right? This is much deeper than kindness. This is Moshe saying, I am not me. I want to be alongside you. I want to feel what you're going through. I want to identify with you. If you're suffering, I want to suffer as well. This is what Melissa said. This is selflessness. If you see someone suffering, you're like, oh, thank God I'm not suffering. That's what we would say, right? I'm sorry? It's deeper than love even. That's right. Right. That brings love, it brings kindness, it brings everything. We'll see exactly how much it brings. We'll get to love in a second, because it turns out if you don't have this, you can't have love either. But this is the root characteristic. That's right. Moshe is saying, I am not Moshe, I'm different. I'm different than you. right? If you're suffering, I'm like you. I'm identifying with you, right? Moshe's diving into other people's lives. He really wants to feel what they're going through. That's the first opinion of the Midrash. And what does the Midrash say further? He saw an old person carrying what a young person should carry. And a man and a woman and a man, and an old person and a big person. He saw details. He noticed the particular aspects of their suffering. It wasn't like, when you see someone suffering, right? Oh, this guy, he's suffering, right? But you're reserved. There's me and then there's the sufferer. Moshe's like, well, how is he suffering? What particular aspect of suffering is he undergoing? Oh, this is a man, and he's doing what a woman really is better at doing. Or this is a small person, and they're carrying something which is a little bit too big for them. And this is an old person, he's doing what a young person should be doing. He noticed the details. Every person he saw, he says, what's this person? What are they going through? How exactly are they suffering? This is an example of Moshe superimposing himself into someone else's little world. All too often, we live lives as if we're in a cocoon. We're by ourselves, right? Moshe comes and says, I'm selfless. I don't exist. All I am is other people. All I feel is what they're feeling. Moshe says, I want to experience life from someone else's perspective. What did the Almighty tell him? And who remembers Moshe sees the burning bush? What is the first thing the Almighty tells him when he sees the burning bush? Huh? Sha'al na'alcha ma'al ladrecha. Right, Moshe is at the burning bush, his first experience of prophecy.
When I was young, I was listening very well.
Take off your shoes. Right? So the first thing God tells Moshe, the first prophecy Moshe has, take off your shoes. Can we think of something more inspiring as a first lesson of prophecy? Can it be something more important? Why take off your shoes? I think perhaps we could say what the Almighty is telling Moshe is that you should know the reason why you are a prophet, you're a leader, you're the man who's most qualified to take the people out is because you took off your shoes. You're living in someone else's shoes, right? You're walking a mile in someone else's shoes. You're experiencing life from someone else's perspective. Moshe's world was not his own world and looking from the inside out. Moshe's world was everyone else's world. Moshe experienced life through other people's eyes. He saw what they were going through. He was selfless. Moshe himself was nothing. By the way, why is Moshe the most humble of men? How does that correlate? Because Moshe's attitude in everything in life was, I'm nothing. Because I'm someone else. What do I think about what that person's going through? I'm totally selfless. If you're totally selfish, you're totally humble. Thus, what the Midrash is telling us here is that the quality of a great leader is selflessness. And the characteristic of someone who's selfless, the first thing they got to do is to start noticing other people. We can live our lives and not notice what someone else is going through. It's possible that you have a friend that is going through terrible depression and you may be their roommate and you have no idea. And how is that possible? They're suffering so bitterly and you have no idea. You is not pointing to anyone here. The only way it's possible because you live an internal life. You don't care about other people. You're selfish. If you're selfish, of course you won't notice someone else. Right? There could be someone else about to jump off the roof, God forbid, and you would have no idea because you're too involved in your own world to see anyone else. Right? Your world is sealed. All you see, all you encounter, all you feel, all you experience is yourself. You're not a leader. Moshe is the paramount leader because Moshe was entirely selfless. All he was caring for other people.
Sometimes I wonder about the role of Moses in liberating the people of Israel because he came in from a very privileged position. I mean, he was the prince of Egypt,
He was a
right?
prince.
So he had special privileges that maybe the slave Ron or Melitza or Josh may not have been able to or access to. Like he had the capability of straddling both worlds, of being cognizant of the fact that he was a Hebrew with all this Egyptian power as well. I think that if he had just been normal Yaakov, the Israelite, it may not have been.
Well, I think your point is very germane to our subject, because Moshe had all the more reason to be selfish. He could have very well, justifiably, I'm a prince of Egypt. Why am I dealing with these clowns, these Hebrew clowns that want to eat
Compare it
bagels?
to other royal, like, look at all the royal families during all the, every other country. They never would go and help the regular people. They would be, they were like, let the common people do whatever.
Let them eat cake.
And they just taxed them.
Let them eat matzah.
Let them eat
And
cake.
He did something that is very unaccustomed to someone in his position. I mean, usually you don't see a president go down and carry something unless it's a photo op.
Because I've heard many different people say different things. That one, that Moshe knew exactly who he was, and he was an Israelite all along. But then there are other people that said that it was something inside his neshama that made him see the fact that he was one of the slaves.
That's true, but
What's
yeah.
your-
So your question is, what's the cause and what's the effect? We don't know, but we know the results. We see the behavior, we see the attitude, we see the behavior, and that's what we see, and that's what the Torah tells us first. And by the way, someone mentioned Abraham. What do we find out about Abraham? We find out an almost eerily similar verse about Abraham. Right? This is from Genesis chapter 18, verse 2. Abraham is 3 days after a circumcision. At the age of 99, it's probably unpleasant. I actually spoke to a convert, a friend of mine. A friend of mine is a convert. He was about 35 when he converted. And he's from South Africa. He had no circumcision. So when he converted, he got a circumcision. And he told me, day 3, woo, painful. Day 3. Day 3 was the worst, he said. Right? And then the Torah says, by the way, that day 3, someone's the weakest. So Abraham is day 3. He's 99 years old. Day 3 after his circumcision, he's sitting outside in the heat, and he's talking to God, and he sees something from the corner of his eye. And he tells God, I'm sorry, Anshuldik mir, Rakrega, right? Gracias, not gracias. Pardon. He says, God, don't wait, don't go anywhere. What does he see? I don't remember what he sees.
Angel?
He sees 3 pagan travelers.
Ah, the travelers, and he lost them, yes. Of course.
Let's read the verse. He lifted his eyes. Abraham lifted his eyes and saw. And behold, 3 men were standing over him. He saw and ran towards them from the entrance of the tent and bowed to the ground. Once again, the Torah tells us about another great leader that he saw and he saw. He saw twice. And asks Rashi, what did Abraham see? Why does it say that he saw twice? Why does the Torah repeat that he saw twice? And he says like this. The first is, as it's plainly understood, he saw. The second, when Abraham saw twice, he understood. Abraham saw like we see. Abraham understood. He saw deeper.
I would say identified.
He identified, exactly. He saw they were congregated in one spot and understood that they didn't want to disturb him. And he preempted them and ran towards them. Abraham understood that they are a little hesitant. They don't want to bother him. Right? That's Abraham's vision. He understood what someone else is going through. Of course, he saw 3 people, but the higher level of seeing, the vision of Abraham, is that he understood what they're going through. What's their perspective? What are they feeling? When we talk about leaders, perhaps we could say leaders are great visionaries. And that's more literal than you might expect. Leaders of the people, of the Jewish people, are people that have great vision. They see. What do they see? They see, number 1, what we see. But they see, number 2, they understand what everyone else is going through. Abraham sees the 3 men, but then he sees them again and he understands what they're going through. Moses sees the people suffering, but he understands the details. He gets out of his own little world. He goes into someone else's world and sees what they are going through. Thus, we could say that selflessness, right, not being selfish, being able to experience the world through someone else's eyes, that is the mark of true leadership. What is the most selfless thing Moshe did in his life?
Destroying the tablets?
Destroy the tablets, exactly. What is the act of greatest leadership that Moshe did in his life? Taking the tablets, right, taking his legacy, and smashing into smithereens. Moshe knew that these tablets were given to him by God. This was written, as the Torah says, with the finger of God, be'etzba Elokim. Moshe brought down the heavenly Torah to the world. That would have been Moshe's grandest accomplishment. His place in immortality would have been sealed and guaranteed.
לרגע חשדתי שאתה איזה זה מחבל או משהו.
When Moshe got the Torah, the tablets, he had an opportunity. Whoa, what's that? He had an opportunity to do something that no one had ever done before. To take something that is entirely spiritual, and that's from the heavens, and bring it down to flesh and blood to humans. This was Moshe's ticket to his legacy, to his Hall of Fame induction. What would have looked like a Moshe's Hall of Fame induction? Moshe brought heavenly tablets to mortal man. And then what happens? Moshe recognizes that these people are not worthy of it. And in fact, if I have the tablets here and the people are sinning, this will cause God to destroy the people. He takes the tablets and he says, it's either me, my selfish desires, or the nation. And what did Moshe choose? Smash the tablets. And that's indeed the most selfless act that Moshe has ever done. And what happens afterwards? God tells Moshe, I want to destroy all the people, and I want you to found a new people. We'll destroy all the Jewish people, and you will be the forefather of the new Jewish people. And what does Moshe respond? Forgive the people, and imna macheni na misifracha asher kasafta. And if not, erase me from the book that you have written. Moshe says, if you destroy the people, you have to erase me from the Torah. If the Jews go down, I go down with them. Indeed, we can clearly deduce from what the Torah highlights about Moshe is that the quality of leadership from the Jewish perspective, from the Torah's perspective, is someone who is dedicated to the public and cares not about themselves, is selfless, and is committed to the well-being and the flourishing of his or her constituents. I'll give you guys more examples. What happens? Moshe, he goes to Midian, and he sees girls being tormented. Once again, he's selfless. He suffers with them. He helps them. Another example. Moshe's about to die. Moshe's about to die.
If you want to be. That would be right.
Yeah. מה?
אתה יכול להסביר קצת
בעברית, כן.
מי פה מתקשר?
הכל באנגלית. אני בעצמי יש לי משפטים שאני לא מבינה הכל באנגלית.
But the general idea, you understand, Eliran? אתה מבין קצת?
לא הכל.
Okay, so we'll talk afterwards. זה לוחות, כן.
עכשיו אתה מבין מאיפה הגיע טאבלט.
Tablets and Luchot.
Okay, so I'll do a little more Hebrew.
לא רק מה שאתה...
Oh,
He
that's
didn't
funny.
understand how Moses back then had a tablet.
Okay. So what happens like this? Moshe is about to die. What is everyone concerned when they're about to die? When you're on your deathbed, what do? You call your kids. You make a will. Where am I going to be buried?
Yes.
Right? What's going to be what's going to be with all my money or with all my property, with all my possessions? What happens when Moshe is about to die? Right? Moshe said to God, "May Hashem, God of all living souls, appoint a man over the community." The one concern that Moshe has when he's about to die, who is going to lead the people? Will they have a leader of the people? Right? Who's going to care for them? Who's going to tend for them? Who's going to make sure that their needs are fulfilled?
Right there.
You ready?
Joshua.
Volunteers tribute?
Joshua.
Ready to roll.
Now, what does it mean? Why would the Torah? Why did Moshe say "God of all living souls"? Rashi explains. Moshe said to God, the personality of each individual is known to God, right? Everyone's different. Everyone's different. I want you to find a leader who will be able to understand and suffer with each individual on their own personality. All Jews are different. 2 Jews, 3 opinions. 600,000 Jews, we're talking about 1 million opinions. I need a man to lead the people who could suffer with each Jew according to their personality. What does that mean? It means Moshe recognized that his capability of leadership was that he suffered with the individual Jew. He said, there's a young man suffering, there's an old man suffering, there's a man, there's a woman, there's a big guy, there's a small, everyone's suffering on their own level. Moshe didn't see people as the forest. He saw the trees. He saw kol echad b'nifrad. And he says, I want a successor who does the same. I want the leader to be someone who's able to identify with each individual. And that is, that is essentially the definition of leadership. To be a leader as a Jew means to be selfless. It means to not be selfish, to not be anochiyut, lo liot enochi, exactly in Hebrew, and it's to be someone who is able to suffer and go through what other people are going through. And you'll say to me, Rabbi, wait a minute. With the exception of Josh, no one is necessarily saying, I'm a Jewish leader. So why is it so important to know what Moshe Rabbeinu did? Who cares what Moshe Rabbeinu did? What about us? Why is it important for us to become less selfish? Why is it important for us to become more of a Jewish leader? So I'll give you 3 answers. Why do we need to be great Jewish leaders? So first of all, like this. A Jew, by definition, and I'll explain what I mean. By definition, Hagdara shel Yehudi is a leader, manhig. Why? By definition, I'll explain what I mean. The Jews are called the chosen people. What does it mean that we're chosen? Am nivchar. Lama? Nivchar lama. Why are we chosen? We're better, we're more handsome, we're more intelligent.
Among
What?
other things.
Huh? At least that's what Ron said. We have a Torah, okay. What's the point of the Torah? What's it going to? What are we chosen for? We're chosen.
She will say, because she
Go
knows
ahead,
it and
Sarah.
she posted it. You posted it on a certain political issue, but you can say it now.
I don't see it.
Yes.
Don't want to force people to respond. The reason what we are
Tikkun Olam
chosen
and all
for.
that stuff.
Okay, everyone here has heard of the idea of a chosen people, correct? Right, Matt? We've heard. Chosen for what? What are we chosen for? Chosen from? What does it mean?
Sydney knows
Go ahead. Yeah. So the answer is like this. In our world, in the world that the Almighty gave us, we have work to do. The world is not perfect. The Jewish mission, in fact, the human mission is what we call tikkun olam. Fix the world. Litaken olam b'malchut Shaddai. That's part of the Aleinu prayer. We have to teach the world about God. That is our mission. We have to teach the world about God. Abraham started. That's what it means to Olam, by the way. That's what it means, chosen people.
No, that's
this may be news to
I'm
you,
not really sure.
Ron. This may be
what it
news.
means.
This may be news to you, but this is what it means.
Because we're not. The thing is, okay, let's talk about it. It leads to other conversation, but Judaism doesn't try to impose or convert.
That's
other
right.
people
We don't
about
impose Judaism, but we try to be a or lagoim, a light to the nations.
Right.
What does it mean, light to the nations?
So the question is, Or Lagoim, because you have Sheva Mitzvot Noach. It is not about having them pray for the same God, but more of
To be moral,
like,
to be moral. That's right.
And I always thought Or Lagoim means more of how we behave as a society.
That's true.
If we contain our own society as a moral society and we help each other, the other people will look at
That's
the
right.
Jews, look how they behave and how they...
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
We're saying
But
the
it
same thing.
doesn't necessarily mean about God.
Oh,
Where
well,
do we
because
where do we get our code of morality from?
yeah,
Where does it come from?
that's implicit. Implicit immorality
Right.
is
It's not made up.
But
we.
Not necessarily the traditions or the practices.
So
but
the question
It's
is,
not
do
the
we
Torah, that's right,
emphasize
it's not
on
the Torah.
Behavioral, the behavioral, the moral, on the between ben adam lechavero or between man and God. So where do you put your emphasis?
Several of the Noahide mitzvahs of the Sheva mitzvot b'nei Noach are between man and God.
Which one?
What Birchat Hashem, not to curse God, not to blaspheme, right? Not to do idolatry. So yes, it's not about prayer.
Right.
It's not about prayer, but it's a certain understanding at least of God and certain basic morality. But we are chosen to be the moral guardians of the world. We're the ones who are going to bring morality and moral guidance to the world. Go ahead.
What we exactly need to teach the world about the God? People know about the God.
Oh, that's true, because the job's almost done. That's right. You're asking a good question. You're asking a very good question. You know what the Rambam says? Shamat Pam ala Rambam.
Yaakov, let's pause for
Let's
the...
pause for a second.
Take a look at the camera. Thank you.
So you've heard of the Rambam, right? Eliran, the Rambam? Shamat Pam? Well, more than that. Well, no, Rashi more like translated the Torah. Rambam is the authority on Jewish philosophy. Philosophia Yehudit, he's the authority. One of the authorities.
Yeah, something like this.
He says that the reason why we have Christianity in the world, is to help the Jewish people teach the world about God. And the reason we have Muslims is to help the world learn about God. They're our partners, so to speak, in Tikkun Olam. So you're right. The world today... Huh? Well, you...
Wow.
Well,
I think you missed a few points in the...
yeah, so either way, the definition of a Jew is someone who is responsible for really the whole world. We cannot cower in a corner and say, leadership is not for me. We are leaders by definition. I want to say more. Okay, forget about that point for a second. If you want to be a good spouse, if you want to be a good husband, if you want to be a good wife, if you want to be good parents, you have to have selflessness. If you are anochi, if all you care is about yourself, you're not going to be able to have a happy, harmonious, and stable marriage. It's not possible. Those are opposites. By definition, marriage is giving up of yourself. It's changing who you are. It's abandoning your individual identity. It's going through what Moses taught us. It's seeing the world from someone else's perspective. If you don't have this leadership quality, you're not going to be a good spouse. You won't be a good husband or wife. You won't be a good parent. And you know what? The Torah tells this to us in black and white. Isaac, Yitzchak Avinu, he needs a wife. So they send Eliezer, the slave, and he goes to find a wife for Isaac. And he's there by the well, and he starts praying. And he prays to God and says, I want, God, the correct girl for Isaac, I'm going to ask her for water, and she's going to say, I'll give you water, and I'll also give your camels water. I don't get it. If you want water for the camels, ask for water for the camels. Why are you asking for water for yourself, but you want her to notice, right? You want her to notice that your camels need to drink as well. What Eliezer is looking for, I'm looking for a woman who has this leadership quality. You know why? Because if she doesn't notice that the camels are thirsty, she won't notice when Isaac is miserable. She lives her own world. Oh, someone says, give water? Sure, here's water. But I'm still in my own world, right? If I notice what someone else needs without being told, then I have the vision of Abraham and Moses. Then I'm worthy of being a great leader, and then I'm worthy of being a great wife. And I'll give you another example. The Torah says like this. Al ken ya'azov ish et aviv ve'et imo v'davat bi'ishto v'hayu lo basar echad. Therefore, a man shall abandon his father and mother, he shall cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh.
It says that?
It says that, yes.
Do Jewish mothers know about this verse?
Yeah, that,
That's a great comment.
do Jewish mothers know about this? About leaving the father and the mother?
And then stick it to the wife, and yeah, that's.
Now let me ask you a question.
Fathers have
They reject that verse.
This is the description of marriage.
The Rambam's
Why-
wife is not happy about that one.
Why do you have to leave your father and mother? To be a good what does it mean? It means you have to say, bye-bye, mommy, I'm gone. What does that mean? So what it means is like this. It means you have to abandon the attitude, the identity of your childhood. Your father and mother is who you started off as. Right? And you started off also as being enormously selfish. A child, a small child. I, thank God, have several children. Never have my children woke up to tend to me, to take care of me. It's never happened. On the other hand, the opposite has happened several times, and my wife has woken up hundreds of times to tend to babies. Thousands of times, probably. Oopa. Why do we wake up for our kids and our kids don't wake up for us? They're selfish, we're selfless. To get married, you can't be a baby, you can't be a child. You can't be selfish. You have to abandon your father and mother. You have to abandon your identity of me. This is who I am. Say goodbye to that. V'davat bi'ishto, cleave to your wife. You're creating a new identity. You're becoming one. Vayu basar echad. Right? Right now, what does it mean one? What does it mean vayu basar echad? What does it mean to be basar echad? It means that if your wife is suffering, you feel it too. You're basar echad. You're one flesh. That's what it means. It means to see her pain as well. You don't need to say, I'm in pain. You would know it because your world has expanded. You're not in your little cocoon. You and her are one. When she suffers, you feel it. You're a leader. But if you're not a leader, if you're unwilling to say goodbye to your father and mother, you want to stay a baby, you'll have two people living separate lives. You can have a happy, harmonious, and stable relationship like that. You can live parallel lives, but you're not really married. There's no crossover. You're not really one. This is not marriage. This is two people who are married filing jointly. That's what it is.
You need to do like a counselor, how do you say,
Marriage
course, marriage counseling. For really like You have a lot of stuff there.
No, thank you.
There's a famous story about a rabbi who showed up to the doctor with his wife. His name was Rabbi Levine, I believe. And he showed up to the doctor. This wife, she fell. She fractured her foot or something. And he came to the doctor with his wife, and he said, "Doctor, can you help us? My wife's foot is hurting us," he said. I found that so nice. It's a true story. But if you think about it, right? When a marriage is really one, then like Rabbi Wolbe is saying, what affects one is immediately affecting. Continue.
Okay, I want to say something else here. If I were to ask you a question, what is Abraham's most important contribution to world ideology? Monotheism. Correct?
What was it?
Monotheism.
What, Abraham? Yeah,
Yes.
of course, yeah.
How do you say monotheism in Hebrew? El Echad. Lo yidach omrim et zeh. El Echad. Monotheism. Right. That's what Abraham's most important contribution is.
Monotheism, mono, echad, theism. Yeah,
God. That's right.
monotheism,
That's right.
not echad.
Now, if you open the Torah, and you say, what characteristic of Abraham is highlighted the most, what would that be?
The fact that he walked on him.
Huh? Kindness. Who said kindness? Somebody said kindness. You look at the Torah, there's multiple episodes of Abraham's kindness. Now, if I were to ask you, does faith in one God and kindness have a lot to do with each other? Faith and kindness, are they similar in any way? Faith is between man and God. Kindness is between man and man.
Right.
Ben Adam l'chavero. They don't seem to be related very much.
Not necessarily.
Unless you think the way to faithfully serve God is to be kind to him.
Okay, so it is somewhat related. Okay, my grandfather of blessed memory, he said like this. He said, in fact, like what you're saying, a little bit from a different angle. In fact, faith and kindness are identical. Let's look at the opposites. What happens when someone is not kind? When someone doesn't see other people? They live their life by themselves. What happens when someone doesn't have God in their life? They're by themselves. Imagine someone who lived their entire life in a sealed room. No windows, no doors. Pitch dark. Huh? And what happens? They take a chisel, right? They take a hammer, and they crack a little hole, a little window. What happens then? Then they see all the people, they see the grass, they see the trees, they see the cars, they see the sky, they see the clouds, they see the rain, they see everything. Our life, we start off, we're selfish. All we see is ourselves. All we have is ourselves. We have just me in the world. Hopefully, as we grow up, we break a few holes and we see other people. And what happens when we open up the door, we see other people, we see God as well. When someone is closed up and selfish, there's no room for other people in the world, and there's no room for God in the world. Leadership means to break out of this sealed box. It's to open a door to the outside. It's to see other people. It's to see God. It's to see your spouses. It's to see constituents. It's to see your children. It's to see everyone and everything. If you don't have this quality of leadership that's exemplified most by Moses and Abraham, but demanded of us as well, you don't have faith or kindness either. You're not going to be able to. How do you relate to God when you live in your own little world? How can you pray? How can you genuinely pray to God and open up your heart to something that's not in your box? You have to break your box, snap out of your cocoon. Then there's room for faith. Then there's room for kindness. Then you'll have a great marriage. Then you'll be a great leader. You know, indeed, you talk about leadership. How many of us are really going to be transformative leaders that are going to change the world? Maybe some of us will. Maybe some of us more than others. True. But leadership, the quality of leadership that the Torah talks about, it's so basic. It's so rudimentary. It's demanded of each and every one of us. We want to have good lives. We don't want to stay the same spoiled brat that we were when we were babies. We want to develop. We want to mature. We want to have relationships with people. How do you do that? You have to break out of your box. If you stay in your box, if you stay the spoiled brat of your youth, you're not going to have a great marriage. You're not going to have a relationship with your kids. You won't have a relationship with God. You won't have kindness. You won't be alive. You won't be vibrant. Indeed, we have responsibility to try to be like Abraham. Try to be like Moses. To notice other people. How do you notice other people? You have to break out of your box. Not just surface. I want to see, but I want to see further. I want to dig deep into someone else. I want to take off my shoes. Walk in someone else's shoes. What's it like? Try on someone's shoes. Go ahead, Ron. You want to try them on? Whoa, it's different, right?
Your
See
shoes are very big.
My shoes are pretty
I'm
big.
not-
That's right.
No, I'm not there yet.
Big shoes to fill. Right, that's what it is. Moshe is told the reason why you're the most special is because you don't wear shoes. You wear other people's shoes. Everyone else's suffering is your suffering. Abraham saw, but then he saw again. He didn't just see like we see. We see and we turn away, right? We don't notice. We don't delve into other people's lives. That's the mark of true leadership. That's what we can achieve on our little level, but that's also what we must achieve to have fruitful and productive lives. Thanks a lot, guys, for inviting me here, and we'll see you guys next time.
Is there anything that we can learn from King Solomon? I mean, is there anything in the Bible about his leadership? Of course, I'm
He was
thinking
very clever.
He's known about being smart and clever, but I'm trying to think, did he ever
Did you look
demonstrate
at-
a leadership?
Did you look at the book of Mishlei?
I did not.
Well, read it.
Mishlei is one of the books that we never learned.
Oh, well, there you go. So, Sefer Mishlei, Proverbs in Hebrew, right? Or Kohelet, Ecclesiastes in English, right? Thank you. Read those books and you find some tremendous lessons, right?
Guys, before anybody
חנוך לנער על פי דרכו. שמעת על זה?
quick announcement.
חנוך לנער על פי דרכו.
Rabbi Johnny, no. If anybody